Hey y'all, Chelsea and Danny here.
Enjoy this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube.
Almost every home has a driveway, but most of us rarely think about maintaining or improving them. Today, we're going to change that.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Real projects for real homeowners with real solutions. Information and inspiration on improving your home from professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
We often take them for granted, but if your driveway looks bad, it's going to affect the look of your home and in turn, its value. Now you would think with materials like concrete or asphalt, they would never need maintenance, but they do need a little bit of attention. Now if you keep your driveway looking good, it'll certainly look better longer and it'll definitely extend its life. Now this week, we'll look at everything from minor maintenance to complete driveway replacement. Welcome back to the show. Now this driveway needs a little maintenance, but it's not beyond repair. But in other cases, the only option is complete replacement. Now just yesterday, this was an asphalt driveway, but not one in very good shape. Had a lot of cracks, a lot of problems with it, and had several low areas that would allow water to pond up. Not a very good thing for an asphalt driveway at all. Now you can put another layer of asphalt over an existing driveway. Usually that would be about an inch thick. But this one was in such poor condition, the decision was made to completely remove the driveway. Now they removed the driveway by using a front end loader that had several blades behind it, kind of what they call a root rake. They raked along here to disturb the asphalt, then used the front scoop of the front end loader to scoop up the asphalt and put it in a dump truck to be disposed. Now the next step is to remove all of the plant material that's in this area. As you can see, they're working along the edge there. The reason for that is if you leave any plant material under a driveway, it'll find its way up through the new asphalt. Not a good thing at all. Now the next step after they complete that will be to put down a new clay base. The hardest part of laying the clay is squeezing the dump truck through this narrow driveway. Now they begin dumping the clay at the back of the yard and let it fall out as they move forward. Now we're adding about 8 yards of packable clay base. Next, the tractor smooths the dirt out to a rough grade. Now this takes a number of passes to make sure that the driveway has a good slope all the way to the street. Now a good tractor operator like Charlie here leaves very little rake work to be done by hand. Now to be sure the grade is right, they check it with a transit. Now there's a few high spots, so Charlie makes a few more passes with the tractor before they begin packing the clay with the mechanical roller. Now this will ensure that the base for the asphalt is smooth and stable. A second check of the grade and the excavation work is done. Well, the roller did a great job in really compacting all of the base and rolling it out nice and smooth. Now it doesn't matter what type of driveway you install, it's only as good as the base you have under it. Well, this one's ready for asphalt. Once again, the driver wedges the big truck into the driveway to unload the asphalt. Now because the driveway is so narrow, the paving machine couldn't get through, so the guys will have to spread this asphalt by hand. Now this is a big job because we have over 12 tons of asphalt here. Now once it's spread out a bit, they level and smooth the surface with these specially designed rakes. The rakes are also used to pack down the perimeter of the drive and create a nice clean edge. The shovels and the rakes have to be bathed occasionally in solvent to keep the asphalt from sticking to them and making them too heavy to use. Now once a section is leveled, the roller begins packing it down. Now this roller has a tank that is filled with water ahead of time, and as it rolls over the asphalt, it sprays water on the wheels to keep them cool. Now this cooling and compressing of the asphalt changes it from a soft, sticky mess to a hard, smooth surface. Now the guys work their way to the street, dumping, shoveling, and raking until it's time for one last pass with the roller. Now it's been just a few minutes since the roller completed all of the rolling of the asphalt, and you can already walk on it. But we'll tell the homeowners to hold off at least a day before they drive any cars on the new surface. Now as far as cost, this driveway is about 10 feet wide, a little over 100 feet long. That would be a little more than 1,000 square feet. The driveway cost, materials and labor, $1,500. So it's approximately $1.50 per square foot of asphalt. Of course, it can vary a lot depending on how much tear out you have, how much cleanup you have, how much base you have to put down. All of those factors play into the cost. But if you were considering a concrete driveway, it could cost as much as 3 times this amount. Now, as far as maintenance over the years, the homeowners have very little maintenance that they will have to do to this driveway, keeping the grass trimmed along the edge so that it doesn't grow out into the asphalt, and repairing any crack that may form over the years. And maybe after a few years, it would be a good idea to put a light coating over this just to preserve it, just like you would the outside of your house.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair expert Joe Trewini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by DuPont Tyvek. Build it once, build it right.
Usually the last step on any woodworking project is to apply a nice coat of stain, but that also can be the messiest.
You're right, Danny, because stain is about as thin as water, and when
Right.
you try to apply it with a brush, you inevitably drip it all over the place. But I found a quick and relatively neat way to apply stain, and all you need is a $2 plant mister. These are sold in any hardware store, and they're typically used for spraying plants with water.
Okay.
What I did is I used a small funnel to fill it up with some of the oil-based stain we're using. And all you need to do is just spray it right on the project.
Now that's a lot easier than
Yeah.
trying to dip a brush in a can and brushing it on.
Yeah. Now, it's a little blotchy now, but you can see by just wiping it down with a rag, you get a pretty neat and even finish. Even on this plywood and the pine that I have here, it comes out pretty neat, just spraying it right on.
And I guess if you wanted it a little darker, what, just spray another coat on?
Yep. What I would do is spray on a little more, let it sit 5 or 6 minutes, and then wipe it off. And you can continue to do that until you get it as dark as you'd like.
Now I thought I've seen stain in aerosol cans.
Yeah, you have, but it's available only in very limited colors. In fact, it's not available in this particular color that we wanted, and it's a lot more expensive.
I see.
You only get a small amount of stain for what you get in that quart.
Okay, all right, and I guess in doing it this way certainly speeds up the project a bit.
Quite a bit, and much less mess.
To avoid replacement on an asphalt driveway like the one we just saw, we're going to do a little preventative maintenance to this particular driveway. Now the thing that you want to accomplish is to prevent water from getting under the asphalt and eroding the soil. To do this, you need to seal up any gap or crack that you may have on the surface of your asphalt driveway. In this case, that means asphalt caulking. Begin by cleaning any dirt from the crack so that the caulk will stick to the edges and create a good seal. A screwdriver and a broom should do the job. Apply the caulk directly into the crack, working slowly so you force it deep into the space to completely seal it. Asphalt is fairly soft and can be dented very easily by heavy objects, so occasionally you'll find a large dent or a large crack or hole. Now in these situations, you need to repair it using a material very similar to asphalt itself. The do-it-yourself variety, like this one, doesn't require any heat for installation. You simply apply it to a clean, slightly damp surface and smooth it out with a putty knife or a trowel. The sealing that I mentioned earlier is another important aspect to maintaining your asphalt driveway. Sun and rain will oxidize the asphalt surface and actually cause it to weaken over a period of time. Now, a dark black surface changing to a light gray surface is a visual clue that this process is taking place. Now, applying an asphalt sealer periodically, maybe 2 to 5 years, depending on the climate that you live in, will definitely help to protect the surface from this process. Now, do-it-yourselfers can do it themselves by using a roller or a squeegee, but larger surfaces are generally taken care of by contractors using spray equipment. As you can see, asphalt driveways do require a fair amount of maintenance. Of course, they're a lot cheaper than concrete driveways, but over the years, the amount of maintenance money you put into an asphalt driveway in many cases can equal the cost of a concrete driveway. Now, concrete requires very little maintenance, and the maintenance that you may want to do with a concrete driveway is usually designed to keep it looking good, and that all starts with keeping it clean. First, wet down the surface of the concrete so that the cleaner doesn't soak in too quickly. Then apply a concrete cleaner that's available at most any home center with a brush or a garden sprayer. Now, I like to use the brush to work in the cleaner because it really helps to loosen the dirt. Now, this will remove some dirt, but to really get the surface clean, a pressure washer is the perfect tool. The high pressure water will blast away the dirt and most of the stains in the concrete. One maintenance chore that's the same for both asphalt and concrete driveways is sealing up any crack that will allow water to get below the driveway and really cause some damage. On a concrete driveway, you may find a few of those cracks in the score joints. Sometimes you really have to look for them and even do a little cleaning to find them. Begin the repair by removing the dirt and any plant material from the crack with a narrow screwdriver or putty knife. Then force out the remaining dirt and debris with a water hose. When the concrete is dried, apply a concrete caulk to the crack, forcing it into the void and then smoothing it off along the surface. Now this may seem like a very minor thing because it is such a simple repair, but over the long haul, it can really head off a big problem with your driveway.
Now let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out the best new products. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Dremel high-speed rotary tools have been around for a long time, and over the last few years they've introduced a number of accessories that can really help you around the home. One I remember is the grout removal kit that they introduced just a few years ago. This has really helped a lot of homeowners eliminate that ugly grout that may be in their bathrooms. Now, here's a few others they've just introduced. Now, if you're working around the home and you have some real tight areas that you're trying to work on, this right angle attachment really works well to get into those spots that you really can't get into with a conventional drill. Another one, if you have a lawnmower that's needing that blade to sharpened a little bit, you can use this to sharpen the blade without even removing it from the lawnmower itself, and it gives the right angle that you need to make sure it's good and sharp. Now, speaking of sharpening, if you've ever used a dull chainsaw blade, then you know how hard it is to use that chainsaw. This attachment allows you to sharpen your chainsaw. It has several different sizes for different size chainsaws, and you can sharpen it without even removing it from the saw as well. Pretty good. Now, if you're working under a sink or some dark area, you may choose to use this attachment that actually has a small light on it that shows you exactly where you need to be when you're working in those dark areas. Now, these range anywhere from $9 to $25. It can really help you out on those home improvement projects. The owners of this home have lived here for over 15 years, and they always wanted a nice arrival area so that when friends are coming over to visit, they're not having to park way over where their original asphalt driveway was positioned. This allowed access from the street right on into the garage, but really allowed no room for any guests to park. So the only option was to park over there and walk all the way around to the front door or park out on the street, which is never a good idea. The solution we're offering is a nice large concrete driveway and arrival area as well. Now, this process started with using some orange marking paint to establish just some loose perimeters of the driveway, and gave them a few days to take a look at it to make sure it's exactly what they wanted. Then we brought in our backhoe and backhoe operator to remove the original sidewalk that was in the middle of the yard, as well as a number of tree stumps. That's real important to get any organic matter out from under a driveway, but sooner or later it will decompose and some settling can occur. Now, after he took care of everything and provided a little bit of grading for us, our concrete crew came in and put down our form boards. Now, they're using 1x4s here instead of 2x4s, and the main reason is so that they could allow it to kind of free form here a little bit, which is really what the homeowners wanted. They didn't want the rigid 90-degree or 45-degree angles in the driveway. A little more pleasing here, and they have a very ambitious landscape plan that they're planning on implementing after all of this is finished, so it really will look nice. Now, one of the things that we've had to do here that's real important is provide access as far as a curb cut on this side as well as on that side, and that's a pretty tough job. Now, this is our area for our new entryway into the driveway. All of the curb had to be cut out, and that's where it's such a tough job, because this is industrial strength concrete that was original to the road building when this neighborhood was established. So we had to take all of the curbing itself and jackhammer that off to establish the new area that later we'll be pouring concrete in to provide that transition up to the upper level of the yard. Now, the reason this is so long is that the original driveway was back down here. That all had to be removed, and during the concrete process, the curb will be extended back up to a point for it to turn and go right in for the new driveway. Then all of that grass will be continued right up to this point. Now the next step is a very important one, and that's establishing the correct elevation for all of the driveway so that when it does rain, the rain goes where it should go. By using a laser transit, we determine what the fall or drop in elevation is from one end of the drive to the other. We also check it from side to side so that we can ensure that the water moves away from the house. Now this is also a good time to establish where the expansion joints will be placed for the best aesthetics and to control cracking in the slab. Before the concrete arrives, reinforcement wires rolled out everywhere the concrete will go. When the concrete goes into the forms, this wire is pulled up so that it's embedded in the slab, giving it added lateral strength. As the forms fill up with concrete, the crews begin the process of smoothing out the surface. First with a long 2x4 called a screed board to set a rough grade, then a large bull float and the hand trials to complete the leveling process. Now the finish on this drive will be exposed aggregate, which means the rocks mixed into the cement will be exposed on the final surface. To achieve this effect, Johnny, our concrete contractor, sprays the slab with a compound that retards the hardening of the surface layer of concrete. After it's set for several hours, the surface is sprayed off with a pressure washer, removing the surface concrete and exposing the aggregate. The resulting surface is a little more rustic than brushed or smooth concrete, but it works well with the rustic nature of the home. Now our concrete contractor's been busy this morning trying to do a little cleanup and removing all of the remaining form boards. Also, we used a circular saw with an abrasive blade to really define all of our expansion joints so that we can encourage any crack that may occur will occur in the control joint itself. Now, no matter how many expansion joints you put in a large expanse of concrete like this, there's always a slight chance for a small crack to occur. Usually these are expansion and contraction type of cracks, rarely a problem, but just the nature of concrete. Now a little more cleanup here, a little bit of landscaping. This front yard will look nice. We'll show you that next.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard. Lawn and garden tips you can use straight from the experts. Brought to you by TimberTech Engineered Decking Systems. Less work, more life.
Now, if you live in one of the coastal areas of the country, like we're here in Florida, then landscaper Rachel DeToro has a great idea for you.
Danny, you are going to love this idea. Can you believe it's seaweed?
Now, how do you use seaweed around the house? I've never heard of this one.
Well, it washes right up on the beach, right in our hometown, and it can be used for all kinds of things. It's very rich in minerals and potassium, which the plants need, and you use it for mulch.
Okay, all right. Just spread it right over any vegetables or any other part of your yard, huh?
I learned this trick from an older gentleman that grew the best tomatoes in our town. He always mulched his vegetable garden once a year with seaweed.
Okay, what other ways can you use it then around the house?
Oh, you can use it in the bottom of the pots to keep the soil from running out so fast.
Instead of using like rocks, a lot of people use rocks, so you can use this in replacement
Exactly,
of that.
that's much better.
Okay.
And you can use it again on top of the pot to keep the soil from washing away when you're out watering with your hose.
Well, now, the smell, I mean, usually when you're walking down the beach and you see seaweed, there's usually a smell attached to that. What do you do about that?
Sometimes it's kind of ripe when it first gets
Yeah,
here, but
right.
if it ages just a little bit, and it will compost right in the pot as you keep it, but rain or rinsing it with a garden hose, the smell dissipates in a day or two. It's really not too bad.
But what about the salt? I mean, it has to have some salt content. I know salt's never good for anything you have in the yard.
Yes, salt can kill your garden right away, but this seaweed is slightly aged and it's been rinsed, and it comes from an intercoastal area as opposed to outright by the sea.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Well, I've heard of using it in different food dishes, but never in the garden. Well, the homeowners here are still working on their landscaping, which is an important part of finishing off any driveway project. Now, the one thing that causes more driveway failures than anything else is water getting under the slab, just like we talked about earlier in the show. So proper landscaping allows you to divert that water where it should be so that the drainage doesn't end up being a problem for the driveway. Now, whether you're faced with maintenance chores on your driveway or completely putting in a whole new driveway, I hope the information that we shared this week will help you on some of those projects. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.